The illusion of control.
Or the illusion of control, but like the whole thing where there's a wave of people who will no longer buy a product because they don't represent the right body types. And then they have to start representing the right body types. Like, there is a plus to that. I don't want to be overly hopeful because I don't think that is a domineering like factor in our society. I think there's a lot more that plays into it. But it's interesting to think about like how in certain situations our society has a huge influence, and there's a lot of people who are on the fence of just about every situation, where the fringe people on the outsides are always able to influence someone. Like, people are flopping all the time. I don't know. I didn't mean to diverge too much, but that's pretty crazy.
I kind of sometimes living up here in Vermont, I feel kind of disconnected from I don't know. Maybe this is just like a weird like Vermonter way of thinking, but like I think Vermonters are weird, and being up here is weird. Like, a lot of people up here don't care about Instagram and Twitter and what's happening with celebrities. And like, I feel like a lot of people that I surround myself are just so removed, like optionally removed themselves from even caring anything about that, this whole conversation of what's happening out there in society. I almost feel kind of removed from it. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point, because I feel like a lot of people put their Captain Morgan leg up on the higher ground, and they look down on you and they say, like, so there's one side of wanting to pull away from social media because you feel yourself being addicted. Like, I know E and Cheek, you guys both do that. I do that. I have my screen time on my thing. I want to reduce that. But there's another side to it where, like, there's some people like, yeah, I don't do social media. Like, I'm removed from that. But that's kind of a sign of being removed from the times. And I wonder how different that really is than moving to a small town and only worrying about the golf course, you know?
They just think that's the cool thing to do, so they do it.
Yeah. Like, I guess more simply, there's a value to being in tune with social media because you can hear a lot more voices.
Yeah, not that. Wait, what did you just say, E?
It's bubbles. Though.
It's not that you feel
not in tune to like what's actually happening. You're just in tune to what you choose to follow is happening.
Well, that's one issue with that, like, confirmation bias, silos. But if you're, what's better to, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have a take on this, but honestly, is it better to be in a silo or not hear anyone's voice at all?
I think it was social media. It's better not to hear anyone's voice at all. But
I don't know. It's obviously complicated, but I think if I've always been an advocate for there being a standard education course of how to learn from every side, how to take in information from both sides and make your own opinion. I feel like that'd be a standard education course that'd be super useful today. And like, we had a how to read the news course, but it was a very liberal oriented course. I would just like, I don't know if this is possible even, but to have a class that's just like, this is read both sides, form your opinion after reading that. But that's a pretty altruistic view of things.
Mr. Guy used to always preach that in our AP Euro class.
Cheek, smart guy.
I remember he used to always say, like, ask us questions about like, what, you know, who knows, you know, we've got the conservative news channel and that is, and he would wait for the class to say something. And I remember sitting there not knowing which channel was considered, because back in school, I didn't pay attention to the news or anything. And it's funny to think about now, but I remember him saying, like, in a part of that conversation, like, you know, Fox is conservative and, you know, CNN is liberal and MSNBC is progressive and liberal. And, you know, like, well, all you got to do is take little snippets from every which way and form your own opinion. Yeah. But like, there should be, I completely agree with you, an entire class dedicated to understanding and processing the biases behind all of the different forms of information and media that are delivered to us on a daily on an hourly basis on our phones.
Yeah. And the issue is that there's a high likelihood that that becomes politicized too, like in how you interpret it. Because then one class would be like, never listen to CNN. One class would be like, never listen to Fox.
Yeah,
You know, it
100%,
depends on where you are.
100%.
But at the very least, you're making progress. I think a lot of people get caught up in the negatives of progress. And having a class like that would be at least make progress. Like when we first weren't allowed to put evolution into our school learning programs nationally. And then people said, let's put evolution in. And then there were some people who were like, well, that could get politicized. And then, but we did it anyways, and it was progressed forward. And eventually the truth about evolution has become more predominant than not.
Apparently,
And obviously,
apparently down south, there are a lot of teachers that are still shunned from teaching evolution and that are told to skip over it, which is
doubt that at
bananas to
all. I'm
think
sure.
about, and something that I'm super thankful for, that I grew up in the Northeast, which has, I think, you know, some very good education. Not that it's perfect by any means, but, you know,